Humanitarian and disability activist Helen Keller, when asked about her blindness, once said, "I can see, and that is why I can be happy in what you call the dark, but which to me is golden. I can see a God-made world, not a man-made world." According to the National Federation of the Blind, the real problem of blindness is not the loss of eyesight. The real problem is the misunderstanding and lack of information that exists. More than 1,000 blind Americans gathered in Detroit, Michigan for the NFB National Convention to learn about new technology, discuss issues, advocate, and demonstrate that blindness is not an impediment to independence. Welcome to the largest gathering of the blind anywhere in the world.
Good morning, Motor City! It is time to march for independence! We are marching through the streets of Detroit for freedom, independence, and opportunity! NFB in the D. NFB in the D.
Of setting people free from somebody else's power.
Let's find out more about the National Federation of the Blind from Mark Riccobono and Chris Danielson.
You know, the National Federation of the Blind really was the first major leading well-organized disability rights organization in the United States. I say that because the founder of the National Federation of the Blind was Jacobus Tenbroek. And Dr. Tenbroek is regarded by everybody in disability law today as the grandfather of disability rights in America. He really wrote the foundation for what is today and has been since 1940 when the Federation was founded. Any piece of disability rights legislation in the last part of the 20th century and into the 21st century is all built on Jacobus Tenbroek's work, and Jacobus Tenbroek was a blind constitutional lawyer.
The National Federation of the Blind is an organization that has been in existence for 69 years now. Actually, it will be 69 years in November because we were formed officially on November 16th, 1940. And we continue to fight for the full participation of the blind in society on the basis of equality.
We as blind people have changed our expectations of how we expect to participate in society. And some organizations and businesses still, they make decisions and it's hard to figure out why they've made a decision to not include people with disabilities, to not make materials accessible to the blind or other people with disabilities. Our goal is to get accessibility to be part of the thinking at the very beginning for companies, whether they're building a website, whether they're building a new product, to think that blind people, other people with disabilities are important enough to consider in the design process.
Rate of unemployment among blind people is pretty much the same, 70%, directly proportional to the rate of unemployment among disabled people. And as with disabled people in general, and as with the disabled population in general, it's more a matter of misconceptions and stereotypes on the part of the general public than it is the capabilities of disabled people. The fact is, blind people, like other people with disabilities, can do the average job as well as the average person who does not have a disability, and do it on a competitive basis. But we need the opportunity to show that, and there are so many misconceptions and stereotypes still in the public that we're still having trouble getting that chance.
Absolutely. In the National Federation of the Blind, we're very concerned about the employment rate amongst blind people. The truth of the matter is it comes down to two things. One is that blind people have access to proper training and that they're given an opportunity. Blindness is not the tragedy that most people think.
So what are some of the priorities of the NFB?
But there's been other accessible issues with respect to the blind, but a lot of the touch screen type of machines in Walmart and different places like that are totally inaccessible to me. But they eventually listen to us because we don't give up easily.
We're at a very critical point in the history of blindness advocacy and disability advocacy, because electronic information is not inherently inaccessible to blind people. However, it can be made inaccessible by the way that people choose to implement it. We spend so much time fighting for equal access to information. That's at the heart of our fight with Target, which was amicably settled. It's at the height of the issue that we're engaged in now very heavily, which is equal access to e-books.
According to the NFB, only 10% of children with blindness are learning Braille.
We would not tolerate as a society a situation where sighted children are not being taught to read. We should not tolerate that situation with respect to blind children.
It's a young girl in Maryland. Just this year, the teachers were not teaching her Braille. She's 5 years old. And her parents, who are Braille advocates, went and said, well, why isn't she getting Braille? And they said, well, we've done an assessment that shows she can read print. So we're teaching her print. And by the way, she's resistant to Braille. Well, I don't know about you, but when I was in school, I was a 5-year-old. If I was resistant to math, they made me do math. I didn't have a choice. So they said, well, what size print can she read? And they said, don't worry, she can read at a minimum 72-point font. Well, no one is going to be competitive reading 72-point font when she has to read classic books or history for long periods of time. It's going to be difficult to get it in 72-point font, bulky to carry around, and how long will she be able to read that font?
The NFB is celebrating the 200th anniversary of the birth of Louis Braille with its program, Braille Readers Are Leaders. To fund Braille literacy programs, the NFB is selling a special edition uncirculated Louis Braille silver dollar coin. This historic commemorative coin is the first ever U.S. coin to contain tactile, readable Braille.
The mintage of the coin is up to $400,000, and if all the coins sell, that would be $4 million for Braille literacy, and the National Federation of the Blind has to match that dollar for dollar, which we have committed to do. That's $8 million pumped into Braille literacy all at one time. That's the largest single effort put into Braille literacy dollar-wise. That can make a tremendous difference. It will make a tremendous difference.
The NFB conference featured some amazing performance talent as well. Meet young pianist Fernando Apen, who journeyed to Detroit from his native Veracruz, Mexico.
When I was 5 years old, I started formal classes with a teacher, with a particular teacher. And when I started to learn, everything was by ear. Everything was by ear, because I didn't know that the symbols in Braille exist. So I wait for a long time, and when I was 9 years or 8 years old, I was 9 years when I started to read in Braille, because I was very interested in learning how to read Braille music, because I wanted to play classical music, and if I want to play classical music, it's more serious, and you cannot play by ear.
Well, there you have it. Another successful conference for the National Federation of the Blind comes to a close. But the information and friendships will continue to keep the spirit of NFB in the D alive for a long time. For more information about the National Federation of the Blind, check out their website, nfb.org, or call 410-659-9314.